All right, friends, welcome to the Sons of Liberty Book Club. I'm Jared Dodd, number 1, here with Jared Dodd, number 2. And we're going to talk about books today, specifically books that instill character. Character, as you would agree, is lacking very much in society, in the church. And so we want to help us all be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. We are huge fans of books. We believe that giving our kids a love for reading and the right books is at least 50% of the solution. Well, Jared, let's give them the 5 characteristics, or the 5, what's what I'm looking for? Genres of books, categories of books. First, we have lamplighter books that we're going to talk about. Then we have fiction, historical fiction, classics, and history. Okay, lamplighter's, fiction, historical fiction, classics, and history. There's other categories, other genres, but we just wanted to begin with this. Okay, let's start with lamplighter books. These are books that are all old books. These are published anywhere from 1611 up to the early 1900s. And they're books that many of them were almost lost to time. They were in their last print, or they hadn't been printed in 100 years. And Dr. Hamby, who we had the pleasure of meeting earlier this year in Pennsylvania conference, he and I were the 2 speakers there. We got to hear his testimony, very powerful. This one's called Shipwrecked But Not Lost, kind of a true account. It's a true account, based on a true account of 2 boys that get lost basically at the North Pole. It's amazing. And I just want to read to you the last line of the book, because, they just don't make books like this anymore. And at the very end, they're trapped on this island with this sailor who turns out to be an amazing man of God. It says, "If there is one thing that we have learned, it is to fear God and keep his commandments." And then it quotes Psalm 1. That's how the book ends. It's pretty sweet. So, Lamplighters. So I read this. We have... there's about 150 of these. We have about 20 of them. We're going to start our collection. Jared, tell us about Ishmael.
So Ishmael is about Ishmael, a young boy growing up in Maryland. And he grows up in poverty, obscurity. The world assumes that he's illegitimate, though he's not. And in the end of the book, he is on a springboard, ready to go and jump into success. He's a famous lawyer, very successful. Obviously, that gives away a little bit of the story.
All because of character, right?
Yes.
All because of character. Now, we were challenged saying, hey, if your sons read this book, it will greatly encourage them with the character. Was that true?
Yes.
Awesome. So, Lamplighter books, would highly recommend them. And see, once again, this isn't just talking about books. This is talking about categories or genres. Our challenge to you is to have each of these categories, many books in each of these categories, on your bookshelves for your children to grab or to be assigned. Next, we have fiction. So that would be stuff like Redwall. I haven't read this. Have you read this?
No, I haven't.
Jedediah's read it, says it's good stuff. The Dodds are not responsible for any books that might not be good. But hey, guess what? This isn't real. And yet you can learn great truth from fiction. Fiction's great.
No, fiction's amazing.
Fiction's awesome. So we have Redwall. Forgive me, this is misplaced. This would be more historical fiction, but I'll just throw it in here. This is Little House in the Big Woods. Now, some of the characters in these stories teach you character by showing you what not to do, right? But for me, it's Mom, Pa. I really like Pa. That's the kind of man that I want to be. He was a family man. He was a hard worker, and just a very, very good example. Any comments on these?
I actually have not read any of those.
Really? But have you heard them? Has Mom read them to you?
Probably sometime.
Yeah, that was long ago. Okay, forgive me for being selfish here, but I'm going to throw in one of my own books. This is Castle and Scroll, and I wanted to throw this in as an example of allegorical fiction. So this would be along with Pilgrim's Progress, the second best-selling book of all time. This would be along with Narnia. So books that are allegorical in that they represent greater truths, but it's in a fun context of like swords and dragons and castles. So fiction. Is this fiction, Jared? Hood?
That is not fiction.
This is not fiction. In the Dodd House, this is not fiction. Hood is real. So this would be the trilogy by Lawhead, Hood, Scarlet, and Tuck. I've read Hood. Have you read all 3 of them?
I have read all 3 of them.
Good stuff?
Very well done.
And which character would you like to be?
Probably the main Hood. Probably Hood.
Yeah. Has some...
The Batman
of
character. The 11th century.
Legacy. Okay, so Lamplighters, fiction, and of course we could talk fiction all day and all night, but we just want to inspire you to, hey, get some good fiction. And there is good Christian fiction. There's old fiction that teaches good character, such as the classics we're going to talk about in a bit, but fiction's huge. Okay, let's talk about historical fiction. We got some books here. This is In Freedom's Cause by G.A. Henty. I have not read Henty. You've read...
You haven't read any
this?
Hentys?
No, I've just
I
listened.
see.
But this is a story of Wallace and Bruce, which we're big fans of. You've read his book In the Reign of Terror. You've read The Boy Knight, Agincourt. Good stuff.
Very, very well done.
What would you encourage as far as Henty?
All of them?
Yeah, so get them, right? I think there's about 72 of them. G.A. Henty was a historian. He was a Christian man, very Christian, and his books are very Christian. So you fall in love with Wallace. You fall in love with Bruce. And just a little plug that just popped in my mind. I know we're talking about books, but there's an audio series called Henty Alive, or Heirloom Audio. And it has In Freedom's Cause. It has Under Drake's Flag, right? The Dragon and the Raven. And those are my favorite audios. So if you go to Heirloom, I think it's Heirloom
That sounds
Audio.
right. Yeah.
Heirloomaudio.com. You can see those. All right, so Henty, going to be selfish again and throw in one of mine. This is Priest. And I wanted to throw this in to give you an example of biblical fiction. There's a lot of great series out there that take the stories from the scripture and have some twists and turns. Probably didn't happen that way, but it's helping you understand and relate with the characters in the Bible, and they become heroes.
Like Left Behind.
Oh, brother. Don't get me started. Inside jokes there, folks. But yeah, exactly, I think. Okay, wait a minute. This isn't supposed to be here. Return of the King. This is historical fiction. What would you say, Jared? Fiction, historical fiction?
Very historical fiction.
Okay.
Very much so.
Now, this is, what did Tolkien say about when he was asked if this was real?
One hopes.
One hopes, yeah.
One hopes.
Pretty simple quote. One hopes. But we are huge fans of Tolkien. I know there's a lot of controversy. Sometime in our Sons of the Liberty book club, we'll talk just about Tolkien.
No, we'll have
and
to.
about the controversy with magic and things like that. So we're huge fans of Tolkien, whether it's The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. You've been gone with Isaiah out of state the last few days at a conference. Mom started reading The Hobbit a couple of days ago.
Hey, that's actually surprising.
Yeah, it's a pleasant surprise. We'll see if she finishes it. She is an app. She will finish books when she finds one she wants to finish. Okay, so this would be The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion. But we aren't talking about Tolkien. We're just talking about fiction, or I guess historical fiction. Okay, let's move on.
Depending on how you.
So we have Lamplighter books. We have fiction. We have historical fiction. What do we got next?
Classics.
Classics. All right. Here's my favorite, Les Miserables. You've read this. Isaiah's read this. 365 chapters. Would you recommend people reading this?
Yes.
Okay, why?
It's a very good story. Very well done. Shows good character in times of hardships.
Yeah. And you also learn history.
Yes.
You learn character, you learn sacrifice. Guys, this is a masterpiece, my personal opinion.
You guys skipped the history parts, though. Like the sewers.
I don't.
You didn't skip the
Oh,
sewers?
no. That's Victor Hugo blasphemy.
Okay, I thought you
I
said you
respect
skipped
the Hugo text, man. Skip through.
the Hugo text of
Yeah,
Scripture.
exactly. Now, what are some other classics like in that genre? You've read Count of Monte Cristo. I have not. Is that good character?
Not really.
Not really. No, that's more what not to do.
Yeah, that's more what not to
Well,
do.
we have the French. Hugo does the good side of French. Dumas does the not so good side of
yeah.
French.
Three Musketeers.
Now, classics. Isaiah, he loves Jane Austen, for example, and he's read all of her books. Have you read any of those?
I think 3.
Okay.
3 or so.
I haven't read Austen, but I like the movies. Controversial. Okay, anyways. Hey, I've read Bronte. I've read Jane Eyre. But those are classics. And just like the Bible, which is not fiction, it's true, but just like the Bible teaches character not just through the positive, but what not to be. Saying don't be like Abigail's husband. I can't think of his name.
Or Absalom.
Or like Absalom. Yeah, this is what not to do. Well, same thing with classics, with fiction. Here's now, when it comes to classics, this is going way back. This is Homer, And I wanted to bring these out because this is an example of an abridged. This is Classic Start, something a little more easier for younger kids. And here's the full text of the Odyssey. Now, some people would especially Christians, would say, well, we shouldn't. I mean, should Christians really read pagan authors such as Homer, such as Virgil, Dante? Was Dante a Christian?
No, Dante was, yes.
Okay. But even so, Greek, Romans, should Christians go back and read that? We would say absolutely, because we believe that Christians need to redeem good classical literature. And that means taking out, finding the gems of truth and saying, hey, they as pagans, Homer got that right, but it's because God says it's right. And we learned that from Wes Callahan, which you can find at Romans Road Media. We'd highly recommend his program called
Old Western
Culture. So you got the classics, you got Homer, you got Dante, you got Virgil, you got Aquinas, and then you go up and you've got Bronte, you've got Jane Austen, you've got Tolkien, and you've got Lewis. So lots of good stuff there with classics. Okay, friends, so we're going to wrap this up now with a pretty bow. We've talked about Lamplighters. We've talked about fiction, historical fiction. We talked about classics. Now we're going to end with history. My favorite historian author so far is Albert Morin. Do you enjoy him?
Oh, he's very good.
Yeah, so I've read Hitler. I would highly recommend Stalin because Nazism isn't that big of a deal today. Communism is a very big deal, and it's not good. It's bad, and you need to read Stalin. Every American should read the book Stalin by Albert Morin. You've read his book. What's the book about Lee called? Virginia's General.
With Lee in Virginia, or Virginia's General, or
yeah.
Oh no, yeah, with Lee in Virginia was Henty.
Yeah. But Albert Morin's good. I've read his books on FDR. My wife's read his book on the War of 1812. Read his book on Vietnam. So I mean, some kids don't like history. This is really good reading because it's a story. I mean, everyone likes stories. Now, this isn't written as a story, but he tells the story and gives the details, and it's really, really good. This is one of your favorite books.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I have not read this book, but Jared rants and raves about it. Amazing Tales for Making Men Out of Boys by Neil Oliver. Why would you... Okay, so encourage parents and sons and daughters. Why is this a must?
So the Amazing Tales are... There's lots of them. Lots and lots and lots of them. And every story is about men, in some cases boys, doing what needs to be done. And the kind of, this guy's motto is to die a hero, then live a coward's life, is to do what needs to be done. You know, God's scheme, men are supposed to be men of valor, supposed to be courageous. In the Bible, when it lists people going to hell, it lists the cowardly. And so this is about showing boys what has been done, showing them what men have done, and bringing them to that spot. Yeah. And for girls, I guess it'd be showing them what their man needs to be.
Yeah. Hey, girls, you want to marry well? Marry a man who fits the descriptions. So this is stories like the Birkenhead, the gentleman from Cameroon.
The Demons of Cameroon.
Yeah. So good stuff. We've got Bonhoeffer by Eric Metaxas. Hey, give your kids the right heroes and the character follows. This is an amazing hero. We honor this man. We just celebrated a year or two ago the 75th anniversary of his martyrdom. And you want to talk about a great story and a great book. Get this book. Eric Metaxas has a lot of good books. I have his book on Luther. Amazing book. If you don't love this man, read this book and you will. If you don't love Luther, read that book and you will. Or else... no offense, something's wrong with you. And let's end with one of our top heroes, Stonewall Jackson, Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. This is called Rebel Yell by S.C. Gwynne. Now, I've read this book. Isaiah's read this book. You have not, but you read Gwynne's book called...
The Empire of Under the Summermen, I think.
Yeah, or the Comanche. Wasn't it Comanche? No, that's a song. That's a song that we like. Yeah, so, and that was good stuff.
That was very good. He does an absolutely amazing job.
Yeah. So, I mean, nothing wrong with Batman and the Hulk as long as it's not the new stuff, but those people aren't real. And so you need superheroes that are real. And the scripture has them. Hebrews 11 has them. And yet, not to take away from the Bible, there's more heroes since the Bible because God has raised up Christian societies, and he's raised up people who maybe weren't Christians, but they thought like Christians. And I mean, the amount of heroes are endless, whether it's Churchill, Crockett, Jackson, those kinds of heroes. You know, some of my son's best friends, he's never met. They've been dead for a long time, but he loves them, and I love them. Wallace, Bruce, Patrick, whoever it is. And so, friends, books are huge. Okay, Jared, any last words of encouragement to parents, sons, daughters?
Books will change your life more than anything else will, because it's a lot of work to go through them, and you really you put effort into it. And of course, no pain, no gain.
Yeah. I mean, show me, what's the quote? You will be the same person you are in 5 years, except for the people you've hung out with and the books you've read. So parents, invest in good books. Take away the competition of screens, video games. You can shoot them. Get some board games maybe for family time. But I mean, give your kids a plethora of good books where whether they're assigned them or they're just kind of bored or they're hungry for knowledge, they can go and they can get some fiction this one time, historical fiction, classics, history, whatever it is. Thank you so much. Remember, give your kids a love for learning, give them a love for reading, and give them the right books. We'll see you next time.